I would die of embarrassment if I had to defend this clip. No one is forcing them to defend this, by the way. They could just say, I like Trump's tax policy, but this was horrible. They could do that. Of course they don't.
He said there's a positive association.
And he said
that it's not good.
He also said
kind of a leap.
Okay.
Notice how the second they have to actually defend what he said, it's indefensible. In both segments now, as deranged and bad faith as these people are, they're still better. They're still better than the president and his administration and congressional Republicans. You're watching this saying, damn, this is bad faith, not based in reality. All of that's true. And even then, it is infinitely more sophisticated than Trump.
Lowest dose possible.
Already what doctors say.
Exactly. So I'm guessing that is also fear mongering, right?
So
Is that fear mongering, liberal?
I actually have.
Because it's a much more measured, expertise-backed statement than the deranged shit that Trump said.
If immediately the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen.
Can we all just, before this conversation begins and these people start setting really weird goalpost shifts and like treating Trump like he's like a 3-year-old in a diaper who's like just learning to walk. Before we do that, can we all acknowledge it says this man is the president right here on the screen? That's like a pretty big thing.
FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen.
I would die of embarrassment if I had to defend this clip.
Acetaminophen.
No one is forcing them to defend this, by the way. They could just say, I like Trump's tax policy, but this was horrible. They could do that. Of course they don't.
Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol. During pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good.
Trump's claim that Tylenol is linked to autism is dangerously irresponsible and not backed by science.
So there was a Harvard study that was done on this. It was authored by Andrea Beccarelli, and it found that when they looked over 46 studies, and this is a meta-analysis, so it encompasses multiple different studies, also the sibling studies that I know are going to for sure are going to be mentioned here under rigorous review, and they found that there was a link to autism. They also went on to say that you should try to use the
here he describes it
lowest possible
correctly.
dose,
In fairness,
shortest
here he describes it correctly, but later on in the segment, you'll see him say the study said that there's a causal link. I'll point that out.
Medical guidance, and again, it includes NDDs, right? It includes OCD, ADHD, obviously autism, or any other neurological disorder that may be there. Again, I think it's really silly that a lot of people are going around trying to just dump Tylenol when they're pregnant. It's irresponsible. But is it linked? Yes, that's what the evidence shows.
Okay, so it seems like we are kind of sane-washing what Trump said. So we went from Trump saying taking Tylenol and then he buffers and he goes, not good. That's different from saying that data shows that there's an association. I mean, we all know correlation is not causation. And in that same Harvard study you mentioned, at the end it says further research is needed to prove a causal link. And again, when you look at things like the sibling study, the reason that sibling study is so important, it's the largest of its kind, is you have similar environments, similar genetics, but you have one sibling where the mother took Tylenol before and one where you didn't. Just by the way, everyone should know this. Anytime a doctor is talking to a pregnant woman with every medication, he already says or she already says, use it sparingly, use with caution. That is already the precedent. That is very different from Trump and RFK Jr., neither of whom have ever went to medical school, coming out and giving a statement with the weight of the federal government behind them, saying that taking Tylenol is not good. So defend what they said, not some sane-washed version.
I'll defend what they said. They said there was an association with it, that there was a positive association. He literally said it in the clip. He said there's a positive association.
And then he said
that it's not good.
He also said
kind of a leap.
Okay.
Notice how the second they have to actually defend what he said, it's indefensible. That is very different from, like, in fairness to George, right? He says, okay, I will defend what he said. And then immediately realizes that this is indefensible. Trump and RFK Jr., neither of whom have ever went to medical school, coming out and giving a statement with the weight of the federal government behind them, saying that taking Tylenol is not good. So defend what they said, not some sane-washed version.
I'll defend what they said. They said there was an association with it, that there was a positive association. He literally said it in the clip. He said there's a positive association.
And then he said
that it's not good.
He also said
kind of a leap.
Okay.
And he was referencing specifically their pregnant women.
It's implied.
Said specifically not just that there is no causal link or that we need to find a causal link. They said a stronger causal link. There is already a causal link there, or else they wouldn't have reached the conclusion that they actually have reached.
So
just 46 rigorous studies.
So
liar, not true.
Association with it, that there was a positive association.
kind
of a leap.
Okay.
And he was referencing specifically their pregnant women.
It's implied.
Said specifically not just.
Oh, thank you.
That there is no causal link or that we need to find a causal link. They said strictly their pregnant women.
It's implied.
Said specifically not just that there is no causal link or that we need to find a causal link. They said a stronger causal link. There is already a causal link there, or else they wouldn't have reached the conclusion that they actually have reached.
So
so confident and so insanely wrong. Okay. Let's find the link. What can I look up? I'll just look up Harvard meta-analysis Tylenol. Now, if we just control F the word causal, it only appears once. Further research is needed to confirm the association and determine causality. Because in a meta-analysis, especially one that takes observational studies into account, observational studies don't draw causal links. So an observational study can do. RCTs can kind of do that, but you can't actually do RCTs on pregnant women. Which is why it's actually hard to determine a lot of times pregnancy-linked medical conditions, because developing like actual causal links, like isolating causal links and doing like proper multivariate research is like kind of difficult in that situation.
Or causal link, because there is already a causal
link. And yes, the sibling study showed negative correlation because it controlled for other confounding variables, right? When you have like similar genetics, different environments, your mom took Tylenol versus she didn't, and you see no difference in the incidence of autism, kind of relevant.
There, or else they wouldn't have reached the conclusion that they actually have reached.
So
they said a stronger causal link.
I want everyone to hear Matt while they're looking
also said
at
it's
kind of a leap.
Okay.
And he was referencing specifically their pregnant women.
It's implied.
Said specifically not just that there is no causal link or that we need to find a causal link. They said a stronger causal link, because there is already
Stronger causal link. Is that what they said? Let's just control F the word stronger. Huh. Not in the actual thing.
a causal link there, or else they wouldn't have reached the conclusion that they actually have reached.
So
just 46 rigorous studies.
So just to go back, I'm going to reference my notes briefly. But he said Tylenol during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. He also, at the end of this clip that we didn't watch, says, "Don't take it. Fight like hell not to take it."
I'm so glad Naima had the quote.
Now, I'm not a doctor or any of you.
Possible duration.
What?
I don't even.
Says.
What?
I mean.
Now.
Bro, the way I'm sure he thought he ate with that. Hold on.
He also, at the end of this clip that we didn't watch, says, "Don't take it. Fight like hell not to take it." Now, I'm not a doctor or any of you.
Possible duration.
What?
I don't even.
Says.
What?
I mean, from the study, shortest possible duration.
Okay, so I'm not a doctor.
I didn't even notice that she did that.
I don't even.
Says.
What?
I mean, from the study, shortest possible duration.
Okay, so I'm not a doctor. Are you guys doctors?
I mean, the people who.
Are you a doctor? You.
People who actually.
Are you a doctor?
I don't have to be. Secondly.
No. Are you a doctor? Did you go to medical school?
No.
Okay.
I don't have to be.
Did you go to medical school?
I did not.
No. Did Trump go to medical school?
Definitely not.
Did RFK?
She is kind of insufferable. She's the guy who just sat here and confidently, smugly lied about the results of a study for 5 minutes and then tried to do like a completely botched one-liner. He's not insufferable. The person that's actually quoting what Trump said is insufferable.
Okay, go to medical school.
They aren't
That
the
is my
study.
issue.
They didn't do the study.
I understand they didn't do the study, but they are telling women something to do with their health and risking the health of their fetuses when none of them are medical professionals, and they are referencing a study that encouraged more data. The study was not completely conclusive, and a lot of the studies that he has referenced that are referenced on the White House website are observational studies. And when it comes to
Okay, you're saying she's very informed on issues. I don't know if you're referencing something else. She's said everything correct so far here.
And they are referencing a study that encouraged more data. The study was not completely conclusive, and a lot of the studies that he has referenced that are referenced on the White House website are observational studies. And
also true, substantive point.
when it comes to observational studies, you can have confounding evidence.
Extremely good point, also true. Like this is an extremely confounding variables. Basically, it's like when you have an independent variable, dependent variable, a confounding variable can be something that influences the outcome that is actually causing it, but it can be confused as to like which variable is causing it unless you're able to isolate the variables, which is why RCTs are so important.
Because you don't have control over all of the variables. If Trump is proposing to give
a lot of people's critique of like she's insufferable is like what someone earlier said, which is like, I don't like when women talk, which is like, that's a you problem.
More funding to research on the causes of autism and proposing that there could potentially be a link, certain studies have found there to be a link, but we don't have conclusive evidence, that would be fine. I would have no issue with that statement. But telling women to fight like hell not to take fever medication, something to help relieve a fever during pregnancy, is really dangerous for the health of the mother and the fetus.
I think for anyone who actually cares, someone who's a mother or anybody that looks at that, they can go on the website, they can look at all the different studies, they can look at the Harvard study that was headed by Andrea Bocelli, who is the author, and it was done by multiple different institutions. They can look at how it was a gold standard. It was very much rigorous, very much comprehensive, and it analyzed 46 of the best studies, not just like random individual studies, and found that you should, like, if there is a causal connection between NDDs, and taking
Liar.
It
which is a fact
encouraged
of the matter.
more
Oh my
research. But I
God.
just want to talk about the health of
like random individual studies, and found that you should, like, if there is a causal connection between NDDs and taking acetaminophen, which is a fact of the matter.
He's lying. I'm leaving this tab open because he's lying. Everyone just look up Harvard Tylenol meta-analysis. Doesn't say what he says.
more research. But I do just want to talk about the health of women. So for 1 second. No, it's okay. It's okay. But for 1 second, for the health of women. So when it comes to treating fevers during pregnancy, there's only really one main medicine that's used. The other kind of medicine that generally treats fevers are like aspirins and NSAIDs, right? But you can't use that during a pregnancy because it actually is proven to potentially harm the fetus, right? So when it comes to treating a fever during pregnancy, Tylenol is generally considered the best option. If you leave a fever untreated during pregnancy, you are risking miscarriage, you are risking stillbirth, you are risking serious physical developmental issues like spina bifida. So for women...
This is another, again, very good point that you can also make about the COVID vaccine, which is that even if you were to make an argument that Tylenol use during pregnancy can cause XYZ negative effects, whatever issue would cause you to take Tylenol, if left unanswered, could result in the same X, Y, and Z outcome occurring at a higher rate, which is when people talk about, for example, like, COVID vaccines cause myocarditis in some situations, or they can be associated with it. Getting COVID itself has a higher likelihood of causing myocarditis than getting it from the vaccine. Crazy how I got called a misogynist. No, I was referring a specific person in my chat who said that they don't like when women talk. You can scroll up and find it. I don't know if it disappeared. I'm saying a lot of people, when they complain that there's like no substance here, it's just that, trying to masquerade as being a more substantive critique.
Women who maybe don't have access to the fantastic education that you've had and don't understand how to read these studies. Because when we read them, they're not really written for the average person, right? You can potentially, if the president of the country, who you idolize, who you respect, who you believe to be a good faith source, is telling you not to take Tylenol, you could potentially be leaving your fever untreated.
Hold on.
Exactly.
Matt says Trump's not their doctor. The implication being that the statements he makes don't matter. Then what was the point of him making this statement with like all the public health experts standing behind him? And the 2 days prior, he's on like every single news show saying we have really, really big news coming. We've cracked the code on autism. Why didn't you call him out when it happened? I called him out. This entire video that you're watching is me calling him out for 1 hour and 21 minutes. If your question is, why didn't you say everything possible to say ever, given infinite time, then the answer is because there was a time constraint, which is why I'm doing a reaction to it now.
No, so they can go to their doctor if they're worried about using it.
Well, not if we take away medication.
You already said that he was not a doctor. I think we all agree that he's not a doctor. The FDA sent out a letter to a bunch of medical institutions about the findings of the studies, right?
Yes, and Trump and his team also misquoted the Harvard study, the same way you're misquoting it.
Meta-analysis specifically. It's not like any woman who's thinking about taking acetaminophen is going to call Trump. They're going to call their doctor. Can I please finish?
Go ahead. What?
Great. So they're going to call their doctor and they're going to see what's best specifically for them, right? And that's what they mentioned in the study, right? Individual risk-based. Hold on.
I think that's very idealistic.
Individual risk-based assessments.
Is the echo on my mic or on the Jubilee video? You don't hear an echo? It's a delay on both? Like a delay from my mouth moving, and maybe y'all just have bad Wi-Fi. You clearly didn't get Biden's broadband expansion.
So it's going to be done by individuals and their doctors who are going to prescribe them care and understand their specific circumstances.
Again, you're saying washing what Trump said. You're trying to make it sound like more logical than what it actually was. And I would encourage everyone here, don't take my word for it, don't take his word for it. Look up the Harvard study. It says further research is needed to prove a causal link. And furthermore, that meta-analysis contained a lot of observational studies. Observational studies are not RCTs. They can't prove a causal link. And as Naima brought up earlier, with observational studies, you can have what's called a confounding variable. Tylenol is not taken in a vacuum. Tylenol is taken because you have some kind of other ailment, some kind of other pain. It's much more likely that whatever is causing you to take Tylenol could have a causal link with autism than that acetaminophen itself would have that causal link. That makes a lot more sense.
Right. So, and it looks like we've all
I don't know who that guy was, but that's probably exactly how I would put it. Yeah.
looked at the study pretty in depth. Like, what I want to say about it is 27 of the 46 studies did find a positive association of like 1.2, 1.3. There was one study, the rest, by the way, just found no correlation. The Swedish one is the only one that said that had that put doubts. But what Trump and
When we say the Swedish one is the only one, it's also the largest study of that kind, at least as of my understanding. Maybe there's something after that was bigger. But at the time it was done.
Talking about is exactly what the FDA has said. It's exactly what Tylenol themselves have posted about. They've warned, if you're pregnant, they have.
They said fight like hell not to take Tylenol.
No.
Literally.
I'm talking about
It's the same
Tylenol.
wash on Trump consistently. It's just like trying to make him sound less deranged than he is.
Hold on, forget Trump for a second. Has the FDA warned caution with Tylenol?
Sure, they warned caution with every medication.
Okay,
if you're
has
pregnant. That's not what Trump said, though.
Hold on. Has Tylenol themselves also voiced the same concern?
You have to, liability-wise, you literally
But
have
again,
to.
27 of the 46, right?
Yes.
The thing that Tylenol voiced and that doctors voice is, hey, be cautious and sparing when you use this medication. No medical professional ever says, take as much of this as you can, as often as possible.
27 of the
46
showed
They're
positive
twisting it. They're
correlation.
trying to.
And
It's
by
not
the way,
even
those-
that they sane wash Trump. They insane wash actual credible institutions and make it seem like what the NIH says or what the CDC says prior to Trump's crazy people is the same thing as what Trump is saying now.
They were observational
those studies were very much.
Well, can I just finish my point?
Yeah, so
My point is I think that it's very clear to me that RFK and Trump want to see more studies. It's not like they want to say oh, stop that's the whole point. They're putting the spotlight on this issue. It should be bipartisan. I think we all want to see more data.
Yes.
We're not
RFK does
arguing
want to see more
for
study.
Thank you. Oh my God.
Spotlight
I was
on-
going to say something and then I said it.
this issue. It should be bipartisan. I think we all want to see more data.
Yes.
We're not
RFK does want to
arguing
see more
for
studies.
RFK does not want to see more data. So don't say we all just want to see more data. No,
this issue. It
they don't want to see more data.
should be bipartisan. I think we all want to see more
It
data.
should be bipartisan. Republicans should want to see more data the way Democrats want to see more data.
Point. They're putting the spotlight on this issue. It should be bipartisan. I think we all want to see more data.
Yes.
We're
RFK
not
does want to
arguing
see
for
more studies.
He absolutely does. He's argued for that.
Okay.
That
Explain
was
to
the whole
me.
premise of
RFK is destroying our public health apparatus. There was a nutrition scientist named Kevin Hall who was doing research on processed foods. I think the New York Times reached out to him to interview him, and RFK's administration edited his answers to the media company and cut off his funding. They've been proven to be changing data behind the scenes and firing researchers who don't comply with the narrative. He is if you don't fit with the RFK Trump pseudoscience narrative, you're going to get either suppressed, demoted, or fired. This is what's been
It feels
happening.
like pseudoscience. When someone who is not a doctor tries to make medical opinions using studies that they didn't do, right? It's pseudoscience.
This is the thing. Is some in MAGA or even some who are maybe on the left, but they want to be super, super charitable to MAGA. They will say that they'll grant that this is stupidity or that this is a good faith mistake. This is the biggest mistake you can make when you're evaluating what Trump does. This is the difference between someone apolitical who they call themselves apolitical, right? Who constantly make excuses for Trump that okay, that wasn't the best, but he was trying to do X, Y, or Z. That was actually a really noble intention. It's always done in bad faith. They always know what they're doing. That's the thing. When Trump calls these judges insurrectionists and stuff and says that these indictments are bullshit political persecution, they know that it's not political persecution. Just so we're clear, they sell this narrative to their fans that we actually believe this and we're fighting for what we believe. No. You're acting in bad faith. When you start canceling studies and shutting down studies and editing data and editing the responses that researchers are allowed to give to media speaking about their research, that is not an accident. That is malicious. That is bad faith. So this is not listen, bro, Trump's really dumb. He read association. He thinks it means causation. He's a silly little boy. No. They want people to think this because RFK Jr. surrounds himself with anti-science, anti-vax groups and doesn't consult actual public health experts. And they have their fingers kind of in the Trump administration, pause, I don't mean it like that. And they're able to kind of set the narrative, set the tone of what they want it to be. That's what it is.
One question. Any of the studies that were mentioned, like for example, the main meta-analysis, was that ever manipulated by Donald Trump's administration?
not my claim.
Okay, exactly. That's the point. You're going off of different things. Meta-analysis.
It's pseudoscience.
One question. Any of the studies that were mentioned, like for example, the main meta-analysis, was that ever manipulated by Donald Trump's administration?
not my claim.
Okay, exactly. That's the point. You're going off of different things in reference to.
No. I'm not going off in different things. You guys said this is bipartisan. Everyone wants to see more research. And I said, nope. Here's proof they don't want to see more research.
The claim is that the way that Donald Trump
We're
is phrasing
specifically
this-
talking about acetaminophen. And again, if you're talking about risk, if you're talking about who's actually going to be hurt by his rhetoric, again, no one's going to go to him because they're not, like, no one's doctor is Donald Trump. He's not a doctor. He doesn't have a medical degree.
Exactly.
He is specifically
This is such a dumb. I don't even need to
referencing
explain why
studies.
this is dumb.
And again, in the meta-analysis, it goes off of risk-based assessments. Someone is going to go to their doctor. Someone is going to see how that is going to affect them on a
But
risk-based
it's the
individual
way that
note, and
he's
that's going to be
saying
handled
it.
in.
That's not
No
what
one's
we
going
have
to
an
be
issue
hurt
with.
by that.
Yes,
That's
they
not their
are.
doctor.
Dude, you know what's pissing me off? First of all,
And he laughs. He laughs. He either thinks this is a good point or he knows that people that watch him will think it's a good point. So it doesn't matter that it's a shit point.
Risk-based assessments. Someone is going to go to the
Like, if Joe Biden gave a speech saying, I think every Republican should be thrown in county jail, and I was like, he's not your local police sheriff, okay? He's not your local police. Are we talking about the same Donald Trump, like the most powerful man on earth? That like every word that exits his mouth has 10,000 times more impact than the average person?
their doctor. Someone's going to see how that is going to affect them on a risk.
Especially when he's surrounded by his entire public health apparatus and markets the event as like we have uncovered some hidden secret of reality.
Based
it's the way
individual
that
note, and
he's
that's going to be
saying
handled
it.
in.
That's not
No
what
one's
we
going
have
to
an
be
issue
hurt
with.
by that.
Yes,
That's
they
not their
are.
doctor.
Dude, you know what's pissing me off? First of all, none of you even are eligible to give birth because you fucking can't. And what's pissing
That's
me
your
off,
argument?
neither is Trump.
That's not an
What's pissing-
argument.
Response?
That's
We're not eligible to give birth.
How many
That's not an
people-
argument.
What's pissing me off about this is that a bunch of people who are not medical professionals, who did not do these studies, and who also are not at risk of being hurt by this
Referencing the
rhetoric,
studies.
are trying to claim that it's not going to hurt women. You don't know what women are going to do by taking this advice. If
what?
Trump says, Trump told women, exactly. So why is he giving medical advice? He's,
No, he's
not
not.
a
He's not
doctor.
giving-
He's
Yes, he
referencing
is.
the studies.
If you tell someone fight like hell not to take Tylenol, and you don't call that medical advice, yeah, that's more like a medical demand. That's not advice. Advice is like, hey, I think you should do this. Fight like hell not to take it is actually a lot more than advice.
Telling
studies that
people
were done
to-
by medical professionals.
Sir,
At
telling
Harvard.
people to fight like hell not to take a medicine
Yes.
is giving medical advice. That's medical
I
advice.
just have to say, like, I understand that Trump has the IQ of a toddler, but you can't keep infantilizing him and saying, oh, Trump's not anyone's doctor. He's the president of the United States.
Which is not a
Why are
doctor.
you acting like he's just some, I wish he was just some random guy saying this. He has a responsibility, and his public health apparatus has a responsibility. And my point in bringing up that RFK's administration was editing the responses of nutrition scientists was to say,
referenced this.
this is not being done in good faith. This public health apparatus isn't operating in good faith when they're picking and choosing which studies
Whataboutism.
are valid.
That's a
It's
what
not
about.
being done in good faith.
This is not a what about
This
it.
public health apparatus isn't operating in good faith
just
when they're
isn't.
picking and choosing which studies
Whataboutism.
are valid.
That's a
It's not
whataboutism.
whataboutism.
No one
It's
picked-
pointing to a pattern
no one
of
picked-
behavior.
No one picked this study. That's a whataboutism. You're shifting to
a pattern of
a completely
behavior.
different topic. But again, he is not anybody.
Bro.
But he's doctor. The main point of contention is even the people in the study, the people who wrote the study in referencing to the one where 27 out of the 46 studies had a positive correlation with acetaminophen use and NDDs. They
already
even
known.
said well, that's fine. It was known even then with the
We're so
meta-analysis.
cooked.
It was very
This
much
is so
rigorous, right? So they're precautioning this. They said the shortest possible duration under medical guidance.
already what
right,
doctors
with the
say.
lowest dose possible.
already what doctors say for all
Exactly. So,
medication when you're
so I'm guessing that is also fear mongering, right?
So
It's not fear mongering. Because doctors will evaluate you on a case by case basis, and then if they don't prescribe you but tell you to take Tylenol, they'll say, hey, just take it if you need to take it. As I say with every medication, use it sparingly. You know, don't fucking OD on Tylenol, obviously. Is that fear mongering, liberal?
I actually
No,
have
because it's a much more measured, expertise-backed statement than the deranged shit that Trump said.
some of the quotes from this full clip here. In the clip, he says, taking Tylenol is not good. And then he goes, I think you shouldn't take it for the entire pregnancy. Don't take it. Fight like hell not to take it. That is medical advice. That is straight up medical advice.
From what I'm getting from that is you should try your hardest not to take it unless you need to.
Why didn't
which
he
is
say that?
exactly what the actual researchers, of people with MAs
I'm
on this
muted,
actually
Steve,
have
don't
open.
worry.
Does it not get exhausting to constantly twist yourself into a pretzel and make excuses for what Trump said? He said, fight like hell, not to take it. Like, I think what he's saying is if we evaluate the like, dude, he's the president of the United States making extremely black and white, irresponsible statements on public health that are just not backed up by the science. You can try to make it sound less deranged than it is, but
You
it's
guys
deranged.
sound much more eloquent than like if
Yeah.
you had made the statement, if Trump had made the exact
It's-
statement you had made, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
I actually would still be having the conversation because Matt says there's a causal, like Matt is fucking lying, so I'd have this conversation with them regardless. But notice how in both segments now, as deranged and bad faith as these people are, they're still better. They're still better than the president and his administration and congressional Republicans. Like, you're watching this saying, damn, this is bad faith, not based in reality. All of that's true, and even then, it is infinitely more sophisticated than Trump. Just to give you a sense of how low the bar has fallen.
Can I ask you guys a question? If more research into acetaminophen or any other related drugs comes out of this, would that be would you guys see that as a positive thing? Or
Yes, of course. I mean, I would love to find a cure for autism. I don't think anyone's saying that we shouldn't research cures for autism.
So then what is-
but the issue is that he's giving people
I think she misspoke here. I don't want to speak on her behalf. I don't think we need to find a cure for autism. I don't think something needs to be cured. And I don't think she means that either.
medical advice without conclusive evidence while not being a medical professional that could potentially endanger the health of pregnant women and their
Autism is like
fetuses.
kind of
If
is that
you
your most
do
generous interpretation? Is that the most generous interpretation of what Trump said? That, like,
Sure, you can give us the most generous.
Yeah, I mean,
I would say
it's
everything
fine.
wrong.
It's
It's not
He's
she said it.
reading fine.
I'm where she said it. My assumption of what she means, if I'm being charitable, which I would be charitable because like, generally I think I agree with her and stuff, is that she means that she would like there to be treatments that can help cure the more unbearable symptoms that manifest with people on the autism spectrum for like the more like non-functioning side, right? That's what I assume she means. I don't think she means like she wants autism to stop existing. That's maybe I'm being too charitable, but I don't think she meant.
Findings that they found in 27 studies. The meta-analysis found across 46. Harvard, it's Harvard meta-analysis. That's what he's referencing.
It's like he doesn't even reference the study in his
Well, he does in the
That's how I feel.
No, he does in the White House page. It does reference the exact study. It's something there.
And just focusing on, you mentioned like not being able to make medical advice if you're because you're president, you're not a doctor, but you realize Joe Biden did the same thing. Like everyone can give
I'm not saying that Trump can't give medical advice. I'm saying if he does, he better do so responsibly and in consultation with actual public health experts using measured language, as Joe Biden did do, as Barack Obama did do, as even George Bush, as horrible as he is on public health, on public health he wasn't horrible in that way, did do.
advice or their own interpretation of a conclusion and say, well, I'm
Yeah,
saying
exactly. This is an actual whataboutism. Not the thing earlier that was completely relevant to the topic. This is an actual whataboutism.
yes, of course, not everyone has to agree with Trump. Republicans don't agree exactly what he said. Again, they're not.
Do you agree
no one's
with
doctor,
what he
yes, I do. No one's doctor is Donald. What he said. Again, they're not.
Do you
no
agree
one's
with
doctor.
what he said?
Yes, I do.
What Trump is saying is not the most sophisticated way of saying it. And plenty of Republicans disagree with the way he said it. Do you agree with the way he said it? Yes.
No one's doctor is Donald Trump, and they can seek medical advice from their own personal doctor about how much use is going to be given.
See, right there. No one's doctor is
Sometimes if you just restate what these people are saying in like a more plain way, there is no further elaboration needed as to why it's dumb as fuck.
Donald Trump, right? He's not a doctor. No one's doctor is Donald. See, I love how you're trying to shift the blame onto Biden. Biden's not. Let's talk about this, right? This is what we're talking about. I know Biden's not, but see how you're trying to bring up Biden in this conversation to defend that.
If a politician brings up any study on any topic that they're not like a professional, PhD in, are you going to say the same thing?
No,
But
it's
it's
not.
politicians can make statements on public health if they consult experts and speak in a responsible fashion.
I don't understand that this is risking the health of a fetus. Like, we're supposed to be pro-life. This is risking the health of a
That's why
fetus.
he's giving warning.
No,
He's saying
no, I'm
warning.
talking about if you
The
leave,
debate doc, I'll let you hop on for like a couple minutes.
if you were untreated during pregnancy, your fetus could die.
No, it's responsible.
He is.
A responsible statement is whatever's like in your eyes. That's
No, a responsible
that's
statement is
a
whatever's
responsible
like-
statement.
No,
Yeah,
no, I said
You
You're
have
right,
to consult public health experts. And because RFK Jr. is firing all the public health experts from CDC.
So you haven't consulted any.
All the time.
It's like, what kind of question is this? I'm saying, here's a pattern of behavior. Here's a direction in which we're moving. And they're like, well, is there anyone left though? I'm sure someone's left, but the fact that they're firing all of them, that specific group is the problem. The fact that there are less left now than there were before is the problem.
Because RFK Jr. is firing all the top public
You're right, Mateo. I did get cooked.
health experts from CDC.
So you haven't consulted any.
All the top level ones actually removed from, I think it's the Centers for Immunization and Disease
I think it
Prevention.
was respiratory something and immunization.
CDC?
As a CDC, like all the top people were removed. Yeah.
August, not a single top expert from that CDC division had briefed RFK.
But isn't it
This is talking like anti-vax
But
groups.
the study is from CSIC or something. Like, it's not even from.
I mean, the Harvard meta-analysis takes into account like NIH studies and other studies as well. What I'm saying here is that this is not a good faith interpretation of the data and just restating what doctors have already been saying, which is that if you're pregnant and you take any medication, please proceed with caution and consult your physician. If that was just the point of this, there was no reason to give a speech. Doctors already say that.
He said needs instead of reason.
And consult your
Just got
physician.
phone.
If that was just the point of this, there was no reason to give a speech. Doctors already say
MAGA 2028 guys.
that. This speech was convened, and Trump said for the first 2 days, we have big news on autism, we cracked the code, we figured out autism. And then he said, fight like hell not to take it. That is not just him giving a measured take on the data. That is him making insanely irresponsible black and white statements that are not held by any top public health experts, except people with no training in the field, like RFK Jr. Like my friend in medical school was more qualified to be HHS secretary than RFK Jr.
It's a call to action that I have the issue with. It's telling people fight like hell not to take it. It's telling people do not take Tylenol for the entirety of your pregnancy. It's the call to action. Nobody should be giving people advice on how to treat their bodies during pregnancy other than a medical professional.
Joe Biden
He wanted-
did it.
and here you go, Joe Biden again. Oh my God, dude. Talk about this.
So
Defend
let me
Trump.
respond to that.
Thank you,
So
George.
you're saying everyone is he's relaying new information because there is new studies on this. For example, like Harvard meta-analysis. So there's no problem with relaying this information and saying you should definitely reduce use. When there's a study on a meta-analysis on 46 studies, with 27 out of 46, a positive correlation. They say use the shortest duration possible, shortest dose possible because of this reason. Now that sounds a lot more comfy to you guys maybe than saying, oh, that sounds a lot more sure. Than him saying, don't take it as much as you can, like try fight like I'm not take it. But again, it's the same point essentially.
Said that so much more eloquently. You should really not defend this guy because you're a lot smarter than him. We all agree that autism has been
I don't know if I agree with that.
increasing in levels and that we all want to
More well spoken, maybe. A lot smarter
more
than him.
research go towards finding a cure for autism. I think where we disagree is the way to do that is not to make broad claims and calls to action for people because that can risk the health of a fetus and the mom. But that's a longer conversation.
Okay, debate doc, you can hop on. I want to continue real quick, but you can say your piece real quick if you want to share some of your expertise with us on this. Hey,
Yeah, I'll try to make this as possible.
Yeah, sure.
And then thank you for bringing me up.
Yeah, sure.
So he kept on saying that there were 46 studies and 27 showed a positive association. You guys were talking about autism specifically. In the autism, so the overall systematic review included 46 studies. For autism specifically, it was 6 studies. Just
Oh, the
six.
other ones are for other NDDs and stuff.
Yeah, the other ones were for ADHD, the majority, and then other neurodevelopmental disorders. So it was only 6 for autism. And this navigation guide methodology, I've never seen it before. And the methodology that they used so they describe the methodology that they used to evaluate like, control of bias, risk of bias, strength of evidence, et cetera, their expert opinion score. They all come across as extremely arbitrary. Like they break down the methodology, but they don't explain for each individual study like how they came to that conclusion. And for the larger study, the Autism study out of Sweden, their expert opinion score for the overall study was -1, and then for the sibling study it was -2, which is the worst score that they could give it. So they were like downplaying that study, as much as they could, and therefore in their kind of like sort of overall kind of quote unquote quantitative assessment of the results when they were, sort of tallying everything up, that stuff, was weighted down.
So you're saying it was like arbitrarily underweighted.
Exactly, it was arbitrarily underweighted, and they actually have 2 different lines in their table. They've got the average, like kind of inclusive of that Autism study, and then before Autism as a separate one. Like they were doing everything that they possibly could to downplay that study. But this, and calling systematic review is a little generous anyway. It's not a meta-analysis. They didn't actually meta-analyze anything. They didn't pool the participants and run statistics on the pooled participants. They did their weird little, navigation guide, bias assessment crap, and then used the numbers from their own little proprietary table to come up with their sort of quote unquote numerical or quantitative, assessment of study evidence. But the Autism study, just like to look at the magnitude real quick. So this is the one that found, kind of no or negative associations between acetaminophen use and autism diagnosis. This one included like 2.5 million children, like 186,000 of whom, were in utero exposed to acetaminophen, right? 2.48 million, right? Massive study. This was published in JAMA. JAMA is like, probably the premier internal medicine journal, just below the New England Journal of Medicine, right? So like this was published in a premier journal. The systematic review, quote unquote, itself was published in some open access journal, environmental health. Like what? Right? The Autism studies published in JAMA, and then the other studies, the other 5 studies, let's say the journals they're in. European Journal of Epidemiology, whatevs. One was JAMA Psych, which is fine, but it's like not straight up JAMA, which is like the top journal. Autism research, that's nothing. That's a nothing journal. And the International Journal of Epidemiology, another open access one, again, nothing journal, right? So all of these like nothing papers and nothing journals versus a JAMA article that's the most recent one with far and away the largest sample, kind of contradicting the results of these earlier, much smaller studies. So one of them had 74,000 total mother-child pairs, right? That's like dwarfed by just the acetaminophen group alone in the Autism study. And there's one, and like I think in this one only, sorry, that's a different one, but like much smaller. There's one that was looking at cord blood in like 996. That's one of the ones they were really pointing to for like the strength of association. But they were all acetaminophen exposed mothers, and they were looking at like different tertiles of the amount of acetaminophen metabolites in the cord blood. There were 66 kids with autism in that cohort, right? That's such a small sample as to be like kind of meaningless. Another one had 64,000, and then this one had I think even fewer, like 20-something thousand, or sorry, 2,000. Like, or almost 3,000, right? So all of these studies are dwarfed by the Autism study. And the Autism study was published in JAMA for a reason. Like it's much bigger with more robust methodology, and it's the one that actually contravenes all of their fear-mongering crap. And the quote unquote, systematic review, right? Just arbitrarily like kind of downweighted that, like the most significant study in the group of 6. And again, it's only 6.
Okay, but did you consider the fact that Trump isn't a doctor though?
Fuck, man.
Yeah. Get on liberal. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. This is basically our medical correspondent now on this live. Thank you for sharing.